because this is the last show Poison Idea is ever going to play.
It's a people's band. It's a band that, people can come up and say hello to, Everything that I loved about punk rock was, it was like another door opened up to whatever this was.
Pushing the limits in one way, but being funny.
I would hope it represents, personal freedom.
Topics of the street.
Putting the fear back into punk rock where it belongs.
All hell would break loose when they would play. They weren't fooling around.
You knew great music was always going to happen, but they'd throw some shenanigans in there, always. Always.
Everyone sit around, smoke some pot, and make love.
And they are the kings of rock.
The greatest times of my life being in Poison Idea.
How many members have their band?
Here's where we started. Here's where we are.
Wow. Poison Idea. Are you fucking kidding?
The legendary punk band of Portland of all time.
Breaking beds all across Europe.
The stage was big enough for them.
And my mind immediately screwed right into it, man. That was my thing. Fuck that old burned out hippie shit. This is a whole new thing, a whole new way of looking at things. And the whole idea of just like saying fuck you to everybody, I dug that. That was groovy, man.
I saw this band called The Wipers open up the show for a punk rock band called Ice Nine that lived in Portland and do like Sex Pistols covers. And they were the headlining band, but also in that bill was a band called Smegma. And they were like having this kind of audience participation thing where the singer was like fighting with this guy from another band. I think he was in Sailor Nation, then John Shirley, and they were like, it was on Getaway. And they were like fighting and they were like fucking rolling around the crowd, and it was really cool because like audience participation broke down the barriers totally. I mean, if you're standing too close, you get knocked over, and that was really, really cool. And the music was really, really great too. It was like, it wasn't like 4-chord shit. It was just like really, really good music. So of all the bands in Portland at that time, besides like the Wipers, which they wouldn't let me join them, I asked. I thought Smegma was the best band, and that was my first band in Portland I joined, or asked to join. Kept bugging them long enough, kept bugging them over and over and over, and finally they had this bass player, Paul, who quit, It was on the flashcard single. So I started playing bass with Smegma. And that was my first band in Portland, and they're the best band I played in. I still, to this day, I think that's Poison Idea.
And after Smegma, I started playing in the Kinetics. Played in the Kinetics for a while. Then I played in Gumby Antichrist. After that, I would play bass in The Stand. After that, I played bass in Jungle Nausea. And after I was thrown out of Jungle Nausea, I wanted to sing in a band, so I started Poison Idea.
I was living with Mark Barr downtown and knew Jerry, and he knew Mike King, and I'd known Mike King already for years, in a different sense, but I knew him, and I knew what a artistic guy he was, and so we started The Stand, which was kind of a compromise, but still, I think, still that kind of a primitive, kind of a surf beat.
If you ever get a chance to see The Stand footage, look at Jerry A. and Chris, and look at Chris sing, and look at the energy, and he was an upset, frustrated, confused kid. And I lived with him, I remember that. And Jerry A. was coming out of Smegma. He lived in this great house over here at Smegma House, and he had a lot of alternative people running. He was a very creative. He was a very sensitive and quiet guy in those days. He really was. Very soft-spoken, very, very mild-mannered kind of guy. And when they got together to do this, I think they were looking for a way to sort of be expressive explosively, but that wasn't their nature.
I was with Michael King at the Smegma House, and I was looking through a magazine, and I was like, I need a name for this band. I was like, what about the Poison? What about Poison as a name for a band? And he was like, no, that sounds like shit. And so I go, Poison Harvest. What about Poison Harvest? And he goes, that sounds like a Grateful Dead song. And so I just kept looking, and believe it or not, I just went, bing, Poison Idea. And Poison Idea, he's like, that's the worst one you came with so far. So I'm like, all right, well, that's the one. So that's Poison Idea. I called it that, and it was me and Chris Tance on bass, and Henry Bogdan on drums, and it was pretty frantic. I mean, there was nothing else like that going on at the time, and it was punk, even though it was like, how punk can you do the saxophone? Contortions like that. That's pretty fucking insane.
I think it was just whatever we could throw together, whoever we could find. We got Henry to play drums. And I played some very rudimentary bass, and Jerry would kind of scat and sing and rap in a sense and blow some notes on the saxophone.
Yeah, I remember meeting Chris and Jerry on the sidewalk at the Urban Noise Club. 1980, must have been in the fall, and they were talking about putting a band together, and I just went up and said, I play drums, let's do it.
Started here in 1980. Henry Bogdan, Tance, me.
Now Portland's looked upon as some kind of hip place. We've had a famous director come from here that was in the scene and stuff, and writers come here. Man, back then, this was a backwater, podunk, funky-ass shithole place to be from, man. Fuck, it's amazing. But I think a lot of that had to do with people rebelling against that, the sons and daughters, granddaughters and grandsons of loggers and fishermen and Peckerwood fuck knuckles.
Then Henry got kicked out. We got Dean, Glenn, Tance.
Chris, Dean, me, and Glenn. That was the first one. That was the fucking 4 teenagers, all the same age. The troublemakers getting all the fucking trouble.
My original band, the Imperialist Pigs, I was the best musician. I was not tooting my horn. When I got in Poison Idea, I was the worst musician, and that's better that way.
And Tom was, Pig was like going, man, if we had that singer in our band. And I was saying, God, if I had that guitar player in my band.
I had a great respect for experimental music and stuff he did with Smegma and the other bands, but I think that he really wanted to get in a band that was playing more just straight ahead punk rock music.
Then they all got kicked out. Then the Imperialist Pigs came in, Boner, Kevin, Tom. Then Boner got kicked out. Dean came in. Kevin was still playing bass. Kevin quit. Glenn came back.
Jerry A. called me up on my telephone when I was living at my mother's house, and he said, "Blaine, I have my new band. I want you to hear it." And he played it over the telephone, and it was Poison Idea. And I think we came to Portland to play with him.
Well, we did Punk Rock Awareness Day at Beaverton High School. That was. I'd like to know the principal that put that shit together.
I thought we were going to get killed.
I thought we were going to get arrested and killed by the police.
Like aliens coming in, the way that people were looking at us. And we set up, we had our shit set up, the roadies set up, and we set up and right away started, not preaching at them, but just telling the truth, about like, hey, all you jocks laughing at these kids dancing up here, laugh while you can, enjoy it, because this is the best time of your life, because next year after you graduate, you're going to be out looking for a job. All these people aren't going to be here for you to pick on. All your little social cliques aren't going to be here. You're going to be out there in the fucking world, and it's horrible, man. And you're going to hate it, and this is, it sucks. I was just telling the way it was, and the teachers didn't like it. And the teachers were laughing kind of, So, of course, I'd go, hey, and look at them and flip them off and do this shit to them, And I think I started swinging from the rope, the gym rope, while we were playing. And it lasted about 4 or 5 songs, and they just fucking freaked. They flipped out. I think they were called the Beaverton Police Department. But we, like I said, there was a lot of, And then, before we stopped, we were living at Clockwork Joe, so we said, hey, if any of you kids are pissed off, want to go to the rest of Human Awareness Day, come down to 3rd and Alder. We got a space and we got 2 gallons of vodka. Come on down. And so all these kids from Beaverton came downtown and upstairs at this club we were living at, and all these kids got fucking just wasted. And that was our Beaverton Human Awareness Day. That place sucked, man. I hated it. That was the only time I've ever been there. That was horrible.
But listen, when you're bleeding, you go home tonight and lay in bed and think, ow, I hurt. But why?
Yeah, that was a very special night. That was fun because there was also 10-minute warning playing, which was two of the guys from the Farts.
People were probably coming to see the Dead Kennedys, but we were there. So maybe they came to see us the next week when we, played with Lockjaw or whoever across town.
Dean's playing. Glenn got kicked out. Tans came back.
Put your hands up and go. Grab your bottle shoot. In a cold dark alley, the figure stands, abusing himself, dripping in his hand. Says it's funny, she knows who's around him. What it never was, dirt has been. Stay by his leg, and not by your breath. If you walk out to that scene, shake it. But doesn't it out your neck? Like the guilty judgment.
With Poison Idea, something was always going to be chaotic. It wasn't going to mean something was going to go wrong, just something was just going to fucking go down.
I had heard of Poison Idea, but I hadn't seen them yet. And later on, Jerry and Tom told me that this was Tom's first gig with them outside of Portland.
They had us come in and set up on stage at this little tiny backstage theater in Eugene, this little artsy theater where they were showing The Decline of Western Civilization when it first came out, and they had us open for the movie.
So the seats are, in fact, filled with all these frat guys and their sorority dates, people not really there because it's a punk rock movie. And Poison Idea are going to play open for the movie. And so they start to play, and you can see the look of disgust on all these people's faces, like, what is this? What is this music? What? They have no idea about the film that they're there to see, much less the band playing in front of it. And so some of these guys, you know, in between songs start to jeer and yell and like, stop and get out of here. And of course, Jerry's like, taking them on, you know, sort of verbally, and the tension's beginning to rise and stuff. And then, yeah, you know, one of the most big weightlifting or football playing guys was like really, you know, trying to entice Jerry into a fight. So they start playing another song, and in the middle of the song, Jerry just jumps with his whole body onto this guy and his date, you know, right onto them, and it's like singing the song and squirming around on top of him, and the guy's like, you know, trying to get him off, and gets off, and, you know, a fight sort of erupts between the song, and other people are like getting out of their seats, they don't know what's going on. This was much more of a riot than the so-called Satyricon riot. And I'm just like, oh my God, I love this band. This is I love these guys.
I do remember. Didn't we set the curtain on fire?
No, I think there ended up being a 40-ounce bottle thrown through the screen.
Go back, man! Now! Push your pride, take the passion of your back! Don't let it go for yourself. Fucking dreams of free and don't let it go for the opportunity. Listen what they say. Funny in the city, but he's out of time. Funny in the city, but he's out of time. Shut up! Listen what they tell you to do. Funny in the city, that is funny about stuff that you played how much with it. Bring your hand back to the appearance of the land. Never run will drink. Living this. Bring your hand back to the appearance of the land. Never run will drink. You made that. I can't. Don't lie. That's it. Never rock with me. You're not what I'm not with. I'm not with the last one.
There was this underground resurgence of what everybody became to be known as hardcore, and it started early on in 1979 and 80. And it started with bands like the Subhumans and DOA and Black Flag and the Dead Kennedys, and that took a few years for that to lead in. But that's kind of the wave I jumped on. Was not the first. I mean, I was there around in '77, but it was so obscure and so underground then. I mean, you know, you're talking about. Well, a lot of the clubs were over 21. A lot of the people that were into the original 77 punk thing were older people, really, a lot of them. And the hardcore thing was, I think, for a younger crowd and a stupider crowd. But I was a stupider person, so it worked real good for me, and I got into that. I mean, I think it's a pretty classic thing. Everybody, you know, you saw the Sex Pistols or the Ramones and decided they wanted to. They could play in a band, because before You had to, everything was Yes and Emerson, Lake and Palmer and all these. You had to be an involved musician, and this was like back to the roots of rock and roll. 3 chords, energy, and it was real. So I totally dug it right away.
When the Ramones beat came along, that was like the one that locked into me. It was like Sgt. Pepper's on 78 speed. We bought tickets months in advance. We show up hours in advance on the day of the show. It's at the Earth Tavern. We're thinking, this is awesome. Front of the line. And they open up the door and ask for ID, and we give them our ID, and they said, well, you're not 21, and they didn't tell us that when we bought the tickets. So, bought another case of Lowenbrow, ate a gram of hash, and Tom called in a bomb threat.
I called in a bomb threat to the Earth Tavern. I said, you better shut that mother down, because that place is going to blow up. But they didn't shut the show down, but that's a true story.
If you're scared, you can love the 2 ways. You can do it both ways, and you gotta live, that's fact. Let's get rich, that's the way that's gonna be. Gotta try 2 ways. You always do it. Let's get you can love the 2 ways. One's right, one's left. Ready! Where are you? Yes, man, I gotta go. I wish I would. Yeah, that's you, but I gotta do it. Wrong from the Thank you, that was great.
We decided to start a record label because it seemed like the hip and cool thing to do, because that's what most of the interesting people that were in bands were doing. Whether it was Smegma putting out their own records, or the Dead Kennedys, or Black Flag. I thought there's something really cool about bands avoiding even trying to get anyone else to put it out and just doing it themselves. Now it's cliched, it's been done a million times, but at that time, it was a totally new idea. I mean, it was revolutionary for somebody to put out a rock and roll, a punk rock record, whatever you want to call it, and put it out on their own label and package it and sell it on their own. It really said a lot about your dedication to your craft, or whatever you want to call it.
And then that lineup folded.
There were a lot of life lessons in those lyrics. It wasn't like they get branded as like these nihilists, anarchic nihilists, but if you read some of the single, one of the best lessons that I ever learned in my life was from a Poison Idea song. You can't change the world, but you can change yourself. And that was heavy for a 17-year-old kid. And it made me think, and it wasn't just like these, it wasn't just all this ferocity. It was ferocious, but there was substance to it. There was things that you could learn, and it honestly, it gave me. That's why I love them as much as I do. Yeah.
Poison Idea rules. People don't even understand. They need to. There ain't nothing like that anymore. You know what I mean? It's enough to make an old man nostalgic.
Poison Idea versus the Miracles in a head-on hair match, loser leave town. I think we had to pack up, but anyway, that was a really cool show because I wanted to say something about this was, I really enjoyed that period because there would be people who would come to see Poison Idea, who would also be crossover fans of ours. You know, there wasn't this stigma that you had to be purely on one side or the other. And I think that was a really great environment because you should not feel stifled because they aren't cool or you're too cool for them. Because that's how I really remember the original scene in Portland, the punk scene.
But that's when it was weird, and that's when we had a mayor that actually cared about art and, you know, encouraged it, you know, to rent out the Memorial Coliseum for a bunch of, you know, for just local music. That's pretty fucking cool, man. I mean, that's saying something.
The skinheads are getting out of line over here, punching somebody else. That's it. We're not gonna play so people can sit around and punch each other in the face for no fucking reason.
There was about 30 riot police in full shield, helmet, and baton in hand, lined up shoulder to shoulder right outside the convention center where we were playing, and I just thought to myself, I've made it. This is it. I've got riot police at my show. I'm a rock star. This is awesome.
Edge was the first lead guitar player, then Tom came in. Edge, Tom, Mondo, Coxman, all the heavy metal guys came in, all the rockers.
This is our last song. It's called Fight. Fight, 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 fight. No, I'm just bullshitting you. Actually, it's called Everyone Sit Around, Smoke Some Pot, and Make Love.
Portland's Mayor's Ball sold out tonight.
Take me up this to the back. Walking the back to the back. Not shooting up, shots out somewhere. We can do it in the moonlight. Staring to the night, I see the never can tell me what to do. Not shooting up, shots up somewhere. Do it in the moonlight. Sun, roller coaster, roller, run away.
And then that lineup folded.
When I saw Jerry A first do his fucking fire shit, and when he had more energy than fucking HR when he was 300 pounds, it was amazing.
We blew fire at the mayor's ball, and that was packed. There was a lot of people there. I don't know how many, but there was a lot of fucking people, and it was packed. And it was a big concrete thing, so nothing could burn. You know, like we could have been shooting off mortars, nothing happened. But we blew fire, and it was on the front of the A&E the next week. That showed this picture, you know, and there was a big fireball over these people's heads. And this little girl like going, ah! This big fireball, and the fire marshal had it framed, and he put it on his wall. And he started going to our shows, like, watching. And we started getting these, like, you know, don't do it, you know. I think we played with Smegma, and just as one of those shows where I blew fire, and the ceiling hadn't been fired for a couple months, and they had these cobwebs on it and a couple of graffiti things, and they just went up. Phew. Common sense, man. If you're playing some of these fucking little bamboo sheds and stuff, you're not gonna be blowing fire and stuff. But some places, it's a trick. You know, I was into Kiss when I was a little kid, and you know, I wasn't trained by some, you know, circus clown, but I saw a Kiss blow fire. I was like, well, that's cool. How does he do it? I think I tried with gasoline first, and it fucking exploded and almost blew my head off. It like made this like blue flame, and it went BAM! And I blew out fire and went BAM! And fucking whoa! And this big black cloud of smoke. Plus it burned my mouth. My gums receded. My teeth were like a fucking skeleton. I was like, ah! And like, well, that's not what he uses. If he did, you know, he's a tough motherfucker. I'm like, that's not what he uses.
I loved the bit with when we were doing Metropolis one night. Poison Idea was playing, and Jerry had lit something on fire and went to throw it out in the audience or something like that, and it stuck on his finger.
And, you know, pretty much every show, Jerry would come home with different cuts and, you know, scars and burns.
1982, I saw a public access television show about punk rock, and this kid hosting it seemed to know what she was talking about. A couple years later, I met her. We started dating. We eventually got married, and she was my partner in crime. But crime didn't seem to agree with her as it did with me, and she got out of it and I didn't. So we had to get divorced.
And then that lineup folded.
Jerry's a showman. Jerry is a showman. And there was some stuff we did, like we had jumps we did at certain times, and the solo in Hangover Heart Attack was classic. It was always Jerry to grab me like fireman's carry. One arm under my leg and one over my shoulder. And back then I didn't weigh so much, and he'd pick me up and hold me upside down like this, and I'd play the solo upside down, and then I'd play with my teeth upside down.
After a show, sometimes we'd take LSD, and one time in Boise, there was a mall on fire, and we all sat there and watched the mall on fire. It was interesting.
We used to have a song called M80 about these quarter sticks of dynamite, and during this song, I lit one on stage at M80, and I fucking threw it, and I just saw this M80 fly behind the sound booth, and I saw Tom Robinson just dive out of the booth like he was like in a movie, man. Boo! Just dive out. Also, go boom! This thing just fucking boom! It just, I mean, it's a quarter stick of dynamite, and the thing just shook, man. And it was pretty fun. You know, we stopped doing that because somebody got one of their fingers blown off, their digits, throwing a M80 in a crowd. It was a friend of ours, so it was for a good cause. He took it in stride.
The whole skinhead thing was kind of a bit of an issue and all that. And I just remember, Jerry came out this one night wearing sort of like a tuxedo shirt and all that. And he was like kind of jumping rope with the mic thing and all this, and just kind of turns around like some big skinhead who was kind of giving him shit or something like that, and just hawked a loogie just straight in the guy's face.
But yeah, I mean, they did have that reputation of, you know, people knew not to pick a fight.
Well, we were scary, and there was a certain amount of security there. We were like a kind of a gang almost, gang-ish. But we all knew that we were untouchable, pretty much. I should have had my ass beat more than once from popping my mouth off. But I knew it wouldn't happen, because if it did, then the boys would be there to help me out, or we'd do it later, clean it up.
But there were other times when we were like, when the Gulf War happened, we were like in Germany, we were in a parking lot, and it was like 7 in the morning, and we were surrounded by a bunch and they were like pissed off at Americans because it was the night after the fucking Baghdad thing happened. And we were fucking around with some guy in a record store in San Francisco. We were fucking around with like grown men and who were like truck drivers, and they fucking didn't like us. Charlie, this was the best lineup that people like. This one.
So it was supposed to be a secret show. It was Poison Idea and the Melvins, and it was great.
I remember jumping up and playing drums with them on Kick Out the Jams.
And Steve played drums with us on It Shoved.
Yeah.
And he knew the whole song. That's how we knew he must have heard our records. Because he knew how to play it. We were pretty surprised. Wow, he actually knows it. me, they were one of the best bands for that kind of hard, intelligently played punk rock music. And they could play anywhere in the world with anybody, any band. You know, them at their absolute zenith were as good a live band as anybody I've ever seen. They were terrifying. They had good songs, and they played great. That's exactly why I like punk rock to begin with. You know? Really, I mean, that was it. And I think the zenith for them, in my mind, was the Feel the Darkness record. That era.
Yeah.
I thought that they were just second to none.
You know, I get a phone call at 10 in the morning, you know, Tickner, what are you doing? Like, sleeping. I'm like, yeah, well, fuck that. Grab your bass, call a cab, get me a bottle of sake and get yourself a 40 ounce or get your ass on over here. There's this, Jerry got this new song called Feel the Darkness. We gotta get this down, man, right now, like that. And it's like, okay, like that, no.
And then when Feel the Darkness came, it's such a important album, and I think a lot of Turbo is based on that record.
Really wonderful show. The No Against Nine rally out at some, what was it, dog track, horse track, something. And it was Calamity Jane, it was Helmet, Poison Idea, and then Nirvana.
Now please welcome the heaviest band in the world, Poison
And Nirvana was instrumental in P.I. being on that show because it came back to us that they said, we're playing a benefit in Portland and you're not asking P.I., get on the phone. So that was very important to us.
Yeah, that made, like, you know, the news, MTV, and they talked about it. And last night we played in Portland, and, you know, they have a scene like Seattle used to, and they had Poison Idea, I'd always been a fan.
Right place at the right time, which I think is a huge part of rock and roll. The whole Nirvana thing is exploding in the Northwest, and for us to have a chance to play with them was big. our shows were getting bigger. We were reaching a level where people were looking at us. And yeah, I think I had to work for a while that day, but I got off and it was a sunny day and I was doing my rounds and I felt great.
The lineup of Poison Idea that I was in was a very good, when we were on, was a very good live band. A very good live band.
That was a good show, though. It was big, and all the people at Nirvana started hating were all there. All the big thugs, the muscleheads, and the jockos were all there. I didn't see too many punk rockers or alternative people. There were a lot of, I mean, they couldn't afford the fucking tickets, for one thing, you know?
In the van drinking.
Well, let's get Mondo. His mom will sign off on it.
I remember Mondo saying to his mom, "We're not gonna wreck it."
Did our little mini tour and show's done.
I'm like, "Hey, I'll give you a ride."
He was gonna go out there and get her a t-shirt.
No problem, I'll just go get the key. So I just got in the van and started driving around real slow.
We get a phone call from the police department.
And I plowed right into this Mayan jewelry store that had this brick front.
Your van's been in an accident.
I got up and was like, oh, and I was super sober all of a sudden, you know?
He should have been killed in it, really.
And I was really drunk. But I passed the test, and he's like, well, you know, I'm sorry, son, you smell like a distillery. We're taking you in.
You know, what are you gonna do?
Another bar. Doors are open. Another bottle. Barely out of reach. Hey, bartender, have you seen that girl I used to be with lately? She alright? As far as you can see. You should mention my name, and she is lonely.
Well, there was a movie, The Crow, and the band Pantera was asked to contribute music to the soundtrack for The Crow, and they chose to record Poison Idea's The Badge.
They needed a song for a soundtrack, so let's do a cover, you know? They just chose one of our songs and threw us a bone, you know? So we were really happy with it. The way it came out was great, I think. I think it stomped.
It was kind of billed as Poison Idea's final show, you know? So it wasn't really like Tom's leaving the band or anything like that. It was just Poison Idea's last show.
What's with the fucking barricade here?
Pig's Last Stand thing was it's kind of just like we did our tour of Europe, like I said, a tour like a month before, and we did 2 or 3 shows. And Tom goes, I want to quit. I want to go home. And I go, we got like another month and a half of shows left. And Europe, he's like, I want to go home. I don't like this. And he just didn't like to travel. He was sick. He's big and whatever. So I go, fine, we'll go home and do one last show and that's it. He's like, all right, fine. And the rest of the guys were like, hey, what about us? You know? Like, what about me? And I was really fucking pissed. It was kind of a decision at the moment. And I was out of anger. And, I was really upset that Tom, kind of like upset me. And I just fucking said, fine, fuck it, we're done. He's like, all right, fine.
You walk the streets, cause your bad habits. Wash the past with another iris. You meet a man who will make your dreams come true. Your worst nightmare, that's just begun for you.
Last time all 5 of us played together with that lineup. We played together and that was it. And then, I felt bad because, never played with, Mondo or Charlie. And it was kind of an asshole thing to do. But, I felt like I was getting fucked. So I might as well fuck everybody else at the same time. If the ship's on fire and, we're sinking, stay with me. And I'll get him in a headlock and take him down with me. And so...
I guess it eventually just kind of got to be too much and it just fizzled a little bit there and had to step away from it. Completely understandable, It was really kind of cool that everybody was kind of doing their other things, keeping busy. SWAT, and...
Louder. Louder. Now let me try it again. Thank you.
Piss Wild Horses is kind of one of those projects in that gift era.
I designed the art direction for Tom Pig's solo project with Dave Dichter, The Submissives, an anvil will wear out many a hammer.
I bumped into Tom and something just clicked with us at that time, 95, 96, and we just started hanging out a bunch together. And that's when we created the Submissives album, and he played on the Pig Champion single, and we did an album in 2 weeks. We recorded it over here at Mike Lostra's house, and never have I done anything, just came together so fast and so quick.
Come back. Then he goes, He comes.
After 93, they got together in 96. And then that was with Tom. And then after a while, they had Ian.
Well, one, that I have footage of that Whiskey A Go-Go show. That, to me, was sort of like the pinnacle of my involvement in that group. So we headlined, co-headlined. It was us and Dr. No. Dr. No with Brandon Cruz.
And then that lineup folded.
Tom couldn't play anymore. He's floating here. He wouldn't play live. He couldn't play live. We had Jimmy, Matt, Kyle, Tom, Andy.
Andy Kessler from the Gits was in as guitar player, and I was going to be in as second guitar player. So you could have the big 2-guitar lineup with 2 guys that could play lead, and we could switch off. And it was going to be like, you know, the Thin Lizzy Attack in, you know, PI, Mach, whatever, you
And then that lineup folded.
Probably it's the only thing that gave my existence meaning, because some people do this, that, and the other thing, and you live your life and you die and there's nothing left behind. I'll leave behind a tombstone or a bag of ashes and a few recordings that people can look at that have my name on them that I contributed to. And so as an artist, you leave something behind, and I guess that's what you leave behind is what you've created, and I helped create Poison Idea.
Tom, you know, rest in peace. One of my best friends at the time.
So when Tom passed away, Jerry called me. He was really devastated. He had been to the house where Jerry also used to live, and he saw Tom's body there, and, you know, this was his lifelong friend, that he made music with, and so that was a really hard time for him. A lot of people, thought maybe Tom had overdosed or something, but that wasn't the case. He had some kind of kidney disease. He was telling Jerry that he wanted to, he didn't want to have to go to the doctor, but he knew something was wrong with him. After that, there was a New York Times article that came out that talked about Tom, aka Pig Champion, what a punk rock hero he was, and the fans have continued to worship Tom. He's like a punk rock saint nowadays. So people that didn't really know him but have kind of idolized who he was. But we all miss him.
Be like Orson Welles, punk, Serious, it would have been cool.
Obviously, Jerry's not doing it to get rich. He's doing it because he loves it. It's from the heart. It's from the right place. Make good music, and what else are you gonna do?
When they keep going out and playing and keeping that fan base actively interested and involved, and I mean, that's not easy to do. I mean, it's so much easier just to stay home and not deal with that stuff, but to actually want to go out and play and stay engaged and keep your fan base engaged and keep them happy and not just fade away, I think is a great thing.
We get pulled over, so I said, Jerry, what should I do? He goes, eat it. So I gave all the hash to vegetable, and he ate it, and I ate all the speed.
Poison Idea made the Kings of Punk record, and they are the Kings of Punk. They were they're the biggest drunks and junkies, and fucking fat slobs of punk rock.
Well, Kings of Punk was, a lot better than the fattest junkies in the world, I'd have to say.
Yeah, and that's, again, maybe that's a legacy of Dysfunction is one of them. That's one, alternate path legacy you can look at. But then on the other one is maybe it's the triumphant adversity of Jerry keeping it going and being healthier. And, that could be a great happy ending to a documentary, right? Is that the guy looks good and then he's...
Here's where we started playing just for drugs. We played all the way to here. Drugs. We had to stop doing drugs. So we cleaned house. Just got some guys that could play. There's places we've never played before. We never played Mexico. Hello, we're Poison Idea. We'll be in Mexico City on October 14th, 2011. We'll see you there in Mexico City, October 14th. Mexico City, October 14th. Poison Idea. Mexico City. Together again. Finally. We played this last show a couple months ago at the Roseland.
Hey, hold on just a second. KUFO's putting on this show tonight. I'd like to say a big fuck off to KUFO.
And it's obvious. That wasn't hard to figure it out to say something like that. It's just that's, it's so I think people might be afraid to speak the truth, It's like the emperor's new clothes,
I think that what took them above there were so many bands that were doing what they were doing, but the reason they rose above the rest of them is they had that commitment to really just take things beyond. They didn't want to just be mediocre. They wouldn't just say, okay, that take is good enough. No, they had that sense to look for something to be the best. Let me get the best out of this, the best sound, the biggest badass sound I could get out of my guitar. That was their thing, was just to get the best out of what they were doing.
Nihilism that even G.G. Allen appreciated. I can vouch for that.
Again, it's one of those things where you have to kind of put some faith in, Jerry knows what he's doing, because he's pretty hands-off. It's kind of like, tell me when you're ready. You're okay. I'm not sure if we're going to be ready, so we might just schedule something. And that's pretty much what we did. And we came in here and, and you, of course, are really familiar with the band. I was able to shepherd that through. And I thought it was, we did things very fast. I like that we did things fast. I think doing a lot of preparation, just regular, practicing, playing shows, and then go in, record, play the songs, get them done. Don't mess with them too much. I really liked that process. Thought it was natural, kept a real live feel to everything. I liked it. It was good. It was difficult at times. You can probably hear that. There's a little tension in there.
The way PI always started out was to have a single take that they didn't need to do anything about, straight up rhythm part, drums and bass.
Jerry came up with this pretty amazing way to sing, you know?
That's where our fun's in. As time's running out. Common sense.
When people come to see us, we're going to play the records for them. And we're going to do it live, and that's that.
59 seconds.
This is the best punk record ever made. Ever. Anyway, thank you for listening.
I was there when Jerry carved Kings of Punk into his chest, and he, tried to ask me to do it. He handed me this X-Acto knife, and I was like, there's no way I can do this. And Chris Tense is like, I can do this, give me the knife. And he just went to work on it. And you can see in the picture of the album where there's some parts where it cut deeper than others, and you kind of see this glistening, blood stream.
I just bought this old medium format camera, and I walked into Satyricon, and they were playing. I didn't know who was playing. I just walked in the door, and I took a picture of them, and I gave them a print, and they used it for their record cover. I went and I shot a few record covers of Poison Idea.
Lots of times we would skip practice to sit and eat pizza and drink beer. This time I opened the door and there's the Masculinator from Alcoholics Unanimous. Got his pants down, his butt cheeks spread, and they're gluing this fly by his ass.
Yeah, they had a real personality in their photos and the artwork.
Poison Idea is a great band. Probably the greatest hardcore band in the United States.
Just real motherfuckers making some real music.
And then that lineup folded.
Heavy metal.
And then that lineup folded.
Tonight, they're here. Please welcome Poison Idea.
So really difficult to listen. Don't go! See you! 1969. Get in the field! Get in the field! Get in the field! Get in the field!
I don't know. I remember the first show that I played with Poison Idea was Halloween of 2012. And I thought it'd be a great idea to dress up as Carrie. I don't know, man. Have my friend dump a bucket of blood on me.
You guys like Carrie? Oh! Oh!
And then that lineup folded. But it wasn't much longer. Yeah, he wanted to get it going again with different people. You know, a lot of people call us Jerry's kids.
You guys. Good guys.
We'd like to thank every one of you personally, and I will do that. After the show, I'll be standing right here, going through the crowd, and thanking each one of you personally, and giving you a drink out of my flask. Each one of you. Thank you very much.
These were the words that I live by. Don't get paid, shave my head.
Ha ha ha! What? Whoops.
Well, I had nothing to do with canceling the tour.
Jimmy, what year did you join Poison Idea?
2003.
2003. Chris, what year did you join Poison Idea? What year did you join Poison?
1980.
Albert, what year did you join Poison Idea?
1989.
Dean, what year did you join Poison Idea?
1980, and I believe I'm wolf number
2004.
Jeff, when did you join Poison Idea?
2011.
Chris, when did you join Poison Idea?
1999.
And as my, final thing to do with the band is I'm out. So enjoy the new guitarist. I'm sure he'll be just fine.
Did you just say you're out?
Yes. This is my final official Poison Idea thing to do, other than collect my gear.
And then that lineup folded.
Poison Idea played its last show in December was because we had a world tour planned for 2017, but two of the members of the band couldn't play well with other members of the band, so they quit. They called the promoters, canceled the tours, canceled the shows, and left us high and dry. So all the old guys, Jimmy, Jeff, Chris Tense, Dean, Charlie, Slayer Hippie, all the old guys came back and rallied around and supported the band and saved the show. They came back and we played one last show, and it was loyalty, and that's why I got this tattoo for them, because it was a very touching tribute, and I loved it, and they were my brothers, and it was a tribute, and I was very happy, and I'm content, and I thought we went out on a good note, so I'm happy, believe it or not.
A real unity. Everyone had divorced parents, everyone had, alcohol or whatever problems or whatever. I mean, nobody's life is easy, but, like I'm saying about kind of getting a new family together.
The last show was something special because all those people just came together to make it happen and it was wonderful that all these former members came together to support Jerry and the songs and make it happen for that last night. It was just truly beautiful, I think.
I'm pretty proud that I got to play in the band and come back and do that final show.
Listen, we're bringing up all our friends tonight because this is the last show Poison Idea is ever going to play. What the fuck? What are you talking about? It's been like fucking 35 goddamn years. What do you want us to do? Hey, listen, we fucking go out on a high note. You guys are here, all having a good time. We play. It's a fucking, what do you call it? Not an orgasm. Why do you keep saying that? It's like a bris or something. It's like a bris or some shit. A baptism.
Jerry asked me to come and play a few songs with him, and I was really excited, really excited.
The legacy of the band is that intensity and that passion and that anger and that angst and that energy. I think it really speaks to people in difficult political times when people feel powerless and angry at the world and that things are unjust.
This is the first song Poison Idea ever wrote back in 1980. An old song. Ready?
Give it up your life, motherfucker! Give it up forever! You're to the way! Give it up, not let it choke you up, give it. That's
28 seconds.
Yeah.
There can't be any denying that the amount of just road work and recording work that they did in that time period is what solidified their reputation, like on a larger scale.
Cheers. Good night.
Pleased to meet you. Yabba yabba.
Good night, guys.
They lived it, they walked it, they talked it, and not only did they do that, but they put out killer albums at the same time, you know, and you could tell they practiced, and it wasn't just like, wow, we caught this magic moment on tape. You guys rehearsed a lot, you know, you could tell. Very well rehearsed, very well produced.
The reason we kept it going all this time was the reason we started it in the first place, was because we all came from broken families and we're all looking for a family. Brothers, Tom, Chris, Dean, Glenn, none of us had fathers. We came from fucked up families, and so this was our brotherhood, this was our loyalty, this is our unity, this was our family. And it changed throughout the years, became kind of a club, a gang, but it was always a family. But once I understood that this is what I was looking for, you're always looking for something, and I found out what it was, and that's what it was, my family. I never had a family, so I was always searching for this family, and I got it, I found it, and I was content with it, and once I understood what it was, the puzzle was solved, and that was it.
And then that lineup folded.